Well, it's my honor to be joined by the national president of the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, none other than Susan Littlefield. She's here to talk with us right now. And Susan, thanks for joining us here. It's nice to talk with you for a little bit. And on behalf of NAFB, of which I'm a member, by the way, a broadcast member, and so is Mark Oppold, so is Janet Atkinson on our team. Tell me what's been going on the minds of broadcasters all around the country this year as far as what they had to cover.
Well, it's been an interesting year, I think, when you look at it from a growing perspective. When we got reports that came into NAFB through our news service from farm broadcasters that were in the Eastern Corn Belt, they were talking about how wet and how miserable it was for planting, how miserable it's been for the growing season for them, and then kind of keeping us up to date, broadcasters have, and where the yields may be and how the crops are looking as they get ready to wrap up the growth. From the Western perspective, we don't talk about how good the crops look in some areas, but yeah, farm broadcasters have been able to share the story. There have been issues and problems in the Western Corn Belt as well, so it isn't all rosy and perfect out here. We've had a lot of insect issues and disease issues as well we've had to deal with, but the ability for us to share stories that can be translated to our listeners all across the United States kind of gives everybody not only a U.S. perspective, but a global perspective to how things are happening in agriculture.
And everything is not strictly crop related either, because there's a lot going on outside of crop production these days.
Well, there definitely is. We see a lot of outside market influences that affect the way our stories are working. We see a lot of government and political issues. EPA is one of them. I think WOTUS took up a big part of our discussions this year. So did avian influenza and what was happening to the poultry industries, not only in the states that it affected, but nationwide, and what it meant for prices and the glut of poultry that ended up on the markets, which then, of course, affected the way the beef and the pork were trading.
When you and I began broadcasting about agriculture, and this is like centuries ago, right? Anyway, we both started roughly about the same year or two. Anyway, did you ever think that we'd be talking about so many global issues instead of just what's happening here in U.S. agriculture?
No, I think when we started out, it was such a focus on what it was happening within your state. But then you might look at the neighboring states to see it, and it just has continued to grow. And we've really had to put on more of a global hat when we cover stories, because it affects the bottom lines of our listeners and our viewers alike.
Well, farm broadcasters all across the country always come together in November for the National Convention. You're going to be spearheading that this year. You're the president this year. And, of course, well, the first vice president, I guess, organizes it. But anyway, you're going to be kind of in command. Tell us what's going on.
It's going to be a great convention. It's a great opportunity for farm broadcasters to come together. For many, it's Old Home Week. We get together, the camaraderie, the feeling of family that's there, and the different stories that we share. And I think that's the one unique thing about farm broadcasters. Whether you're, multimedia, TV, radio, we all share stories. We have a huge trade talk event, which gives us the opportunity to convene on a ballroom and get 20, 30 stories done in just a couple hours. But then we get to hear some great speakers as well, talking about issues that are happening within our industry, ways that we can continue to grow ourselves, and then, of course, just the chance to be together.
Well, and it's kind of fascinating, too, to see the change in technology since you and I started. It's not just radio, it's not just TV anymore, it's social media, it's all kinds of delivery methods now.
It definitely has gone from a time when we had a Marantz with a cassette player, and we had the cassette stacked up on our desks, everything being done through MP3, doing interviews on our telephones and our cell phones, and being able to uplink them immediately to websites so listeners and viewers can be able to grab that information. It makes me wonder what's it going to be like in 2-3 years. I mean, how is it going to advance that much? Who knows? We might even have holograms of us doing our work someday.
Well, we can hope anyway, and hopefully they can correct the images a little bit. All right, Susan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate what you guys do for agriculture and spreading the word.
Well, thank you. Susan Littlefield, the president of NAFB, the National Association of Farm Broadcasting. I'm Marlon Bowling for RFD-TV.